Welcome to the Authentically Elisa Podcast, reshaping business with integrity. The podcast where we explore how to run your business authentically and with integrity. I'm your host, Elisa Boogaerts, a business coach and launch manager, helping coaches launch their programs and events that align with their business values. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to building a successful business without sacrificing morals, ethics, authenticity, or heart. Let's dive in. Welcome to today's episode. And today I'm going to be teaching you some tips on organization. Organization is my superpower. So I figured, you know what? Might as well share it with my listeners. And I just cannot believe that this is episode 51. I can't believe I've done over 50 episodes and so many of them have been speaking with such amazing people. It's just been absolutely phenomenal. Wow. What a milestone. Well, I guess 50 was the milestone, but anyway, here you got me for 51. So, today I want to talk about organization and I want to bring it from the context of overwhelm. So even if you're a super organized person like me, you can still get overwhelmed, right? With all of the gazillion things that we need to do and all the different hats that we're wearing as solopreneurs and entrepreneurs out there. And I get overwhelmed for sure. I think because I'm so organized that I put a lot more on my plate and maybe people expect a lot more things of me. I know sometimes for some of my clients, I'll be given sort of multiple roles where maybe, what they did before, maybe 2 or 3 people had done this one job that now I am doing all of it for. And somehow I still get it all done. But I do very much still get overwhelmed. And, there's lots of different things that we can do with that. It can be kind of scary. If you get too overwhelmed on a consistent basis, day by day by day, it can lead to burnout. And burnout is not pleasant in any way. I've definitely felt burnout, especially when I was nearing the end of my corporate career, when I finally, was fed up and quit and being an entrepreneur full time. And it was awful. And I really after that, felt the need to protect myself. I felt like I really had to protect my energy and I was almost afraid of taking on too much or doing too much things. I was like, oh, I guess that might lead to burnout and I don't want to go there again. That was awful. And so I feel like I was protecting myself a little bit too much. I did need rest and relaxation, but then after a year, did I still need that much rest? I knew I was getting enough sleep. I knew that I was, doing all the right things. And so but I was still very much protective of my energy. And so now I'm trying to open that up a little bit and seeing where, my energy is best placed. And, I know this is now more of a business podcast, but just some ideas on how to deal with overwhelm and to not get burnt out, right? And, it's kind of to do a lot with self-love, about being healthy, about eating clean food. When I started my coaching career, I actually started as a health coach. And I actually did this way back when I lived in London. I think it was maybe 2013 or so that I was introduced to coaching and actually started health coaching. And I was being an avid runner. I was helping people with their running and with eating. And I really like to keep it simple. Really, really like to keep it simple. Sometimes people can complicate health so much and there can be so many rules and restrictions and guidelines and diets and all these things. And I always came of it from a place of just, eat clean food. And by that, I mean, food that is actually grown out of the earth, that isn't processed, that isn't, sort of created by man, if you will. And you can cook those things and combine them into these amazing yumminess and really eat that to feed your body. And it really does make a difference. The other weekend, I, decided to binge. I'm like, that's it. I'm tired of being this good, healthy girl. I'm going to binge on everything. And so I drank alcohol and I ate chips and I had pizza and I sat on the couch. And the next day I felt awful. And I was like, oh yeah, this is gluten and dairy and all of the bad foods and the alcohol. And I was like, oh, I forgot how awful this feels. And so, yeah, it really was a great reminder that eating clean and eating healthy really does fuel your body. I even have a recipe book, which has been probably 5 years in the making. That's still not quite published yet. I gotta actually just put it into like a Canva template, but I have all the recipes written out, and it's all about clean eating. And yes, whenever I, do actually get that done, I will definitely share it with you. There's also something I was talking to this with someone the other day about, when you are in overwhelm and you're sort of worried about burnout or things are just going crazy, it's always good to come back to your breath, right? Because it really helps you be that calm in the chaos. And I also really like to, at the end of each evening, I do a little gratitude things and the things that I'm grateful for, other people in my life or things in my life, but also for myself. What am I grateful for myself for doing? And then I set a goal or an intention for the next day. And one of those is about that, being calm throughout the chaos, especially if I know that, things are busy right now and tomorrow's going to be a bit of a hectic day. So yeah, taking a few deep breaths before a meeting, getting centered, taking that time, maybe standing up, doing a little bit of stretching and taking some nice deep breaths. And you want to do that before you eat too. It really calms you down. And if you're in fight or flight mode, all of your blood like actually leaves your digestive system and goes into like your brain, your hands, your legs, your feet, right? Because you're in fight or flight mode. And so it puts all its energy in there. So actually your digestion is greatly reduced. So you want to make sure that you're in a calm state before you eat so that all that blood goes back into the rest of your body as it should be, and you actually digest properly. And of course, go for walks, maybe exercise or whatever, or movement may be too much for you, but, could you just go for like a little 5-10 minute walk, get outside, get that daylight, get some fresh air. And of course, I truly believe in meditation. I definitely meditate every morning. So that's just some tips on, how to kind of deal with the overwhelm, which I'm sure you probably all know about anyway, but there you go. At least know a little bit more about me now. But getting back to the organization side of things. So yeah, I'm a super organized planner person. It is definitely my superpower. And it's actually kind of funny how, sometimes when you have this superpower and something that just comes naturally to you, it can be hard to think that other people don't have that. Right? Something that comes so easy to you can be like, oh yeah, like you just got to think that everybody's like you. Yeah, everybody kind of works this way. But I actually had my coach remind me of that. He was like, you're the super organized person, but your prospects, your clients are not. And that's why they need you. They are not organized. And so you almost need to remember that they are not organized. So if you're reaching out to them and, they're not responding to you or what have you, like just remember that they're not organized and they need nudges and they need reminders, and for me to contact them in different ways, then they'll eventually sort of pick it up because they just work so differently than I do. I work with a lot of very visionary ideas people, and I'm very much on like the strategy, technical implementation side. And so, which is a beautiful combination, but we need to remember like, oh yeah, we actually work very differently. And therefore you need to remember that and kind of cater to how other people work. So, so let me dive in today. It's going to be a short episode today, but just some tips on organizing. And these are sort of the top 5 things that I do constantly that totally keeps me organized. And some people are thinking like, oh, how are you so organized? And I think that people do it in different ways. Actually, I was working for a client and getting some like handover information from a woman that was leaving. And she was talking about how she's like, I may seem like I'm organized, but actually I just have a really good memory. She's like, I can remember the names of everything, or any email that's come in or all these different things. She could remember all this minutia detail, which made her seem as if she was organized, but actually she just had a good memory. And so when I came in and just was like, saw a bit of like a mess and I was like, wait a second, nothing's in folders. And she's like, oh yeah, but I just know where stuff is. And it's like, okay, right. You got that memory. And I don't necessarily have that memory. I stay organized because of these things I'm about to show you. I stay organized because I have schedules and reminders, and I set up systems and habits. And that's how I stay organized. And I think that all of this is definitely trainable. So if you wanted to train yourself on any of these things, I think it'll definitely help you. So the first one is to set up systems. Create systems for everything. This is especially important if it's something new. So sit down and think about, okay, what is my system for it that's going to make this new thing efficient and stress-free. I am all about efficiency as one of my highest business values. And just actually had this with a client the other day where he kept on saying, oh, well, I just want this done. You can do it manually. You can do it manually. You can do it manually. And I was just like, no. We need to be more efficient here. How can we automate things? How can we, before we make a decision to do something, how can we think about how it's going to work logically so that we can actually not have to do things manually? Because yes, it is simple in which to do it manually. However, it is hugely time consuming. So, how can we be more efficient? And luckily, there's so much tech out there and AI that can really help us be efficient. So, for example, a system that could be, when you start a program, do you have a system for onboarding your new clients and the participants or the attendees? Do you have a system set up for reminder emails? What's your system for getting them replays? So like immediately after class, do you go get the replay, put it wherever it is for them to get exposure to? And that can be your little system. So every time you have your live session with your clients, with your group program, you block your calendar out and you spend the next 30 minutes doing your system for getting them the replays or setting up reminder emails or whatever it may be. So just setting up systems, you can have these little routines that just happen all of the time and they just become sort of rinse and repeat. The next thing is scheduling it in. So whenever you need to do something or commit to something or make an appointment, schedule it in your calendar immediately. If something gets rescheduled, update your calendar immediately. So when you know what your schedule looks like, right, you can plan your time more efficiently around it. And I do love to do this at the beginning of each week. I like to look at my calendar. I'd like to set some goals for my week, and I like to look at my calendar to be like, okay, what is going on this week? How much actual working time do I have? Can I schedule that working time in? What things do I need to get done and when can I actually do them? So that it's really easy then, because then I know exactly what I need to be focusing on that 30 minutes, on that 1 hour, whatever it may be. So yeah, and I think it's also good to block out some focus time in your calendar, right? So that everything can get done that needs to get done. And we're actually going to talk about being a master of single tasking in a minute, but this really helps with that. And I think it's just good, especially if you have that focus time, if you need to create something, or you just need to you got a workshop coming up and you got to schedule in, or you got to write out and schedule in all of those reminder emails, block out some focus time, put things on do not disturb, and just get it done. The third thing is to set a reminder. So every time you think of something that you have to do, put it in your phone as a reminder, or put it in your calendar as that reminder for when you need to do it or for when it's due. So this way you won't miss a thing. So anytime something comes up, because I know sometimes I like to write down in a journal as well and take things off, but often it's better if it's in my calendar. So pick one or the other and take them off as you go along. You can use a task app, you can use a reminders app, there's Trello, there's Notion, there's even just your Google Calendar has tasks in it. Whatever tool works best for you, I would pick one and stick with that. Yeah, so just use the one tool for your tasks. You can keep everything in one place, and that'll even make you more efficient as well, right? And you're less likely to miss something. If you have things in different places, you may not think to check them all, unless you have a system for it, of course. But I think it's easier to just have the one thing. And especially as well, say if you're in some type of meeting and there's actions that come out of it, where are you putting those actions? Where are you writing them down? Even if you are looking at your week and there's things that you need to do, if you didn't want to block out time in your calendar, but you just kind of wanted to have a task, put it in there right away of when you want to do it. So just set those reminders for yourself. I can't tell you how incredibly helpful this is for me whenever I set reminders for things. And also, when you do set the reminder, you might remember what it's about right now. But if it's in a week's time or 5 days time, or even something you got to do in 2 weeks, put some notes to yourself. Read it a little bit descriptive so that you can actually read through it and be like, oh yeah, that's what I meant. There's been some times where I haven't done that and I'm just like, send that email to Bob. I'm like, oh, what email? What was this for? Who's Bob again? So if you can actually write a little bit description, be like, Bob, he's in your notes calendar under, fellow coaches, and you spoke with him on this day and you said that you do this. So give yourself a little bit of wording around it to help you remember what it is that task is all about. And you can even put links in there to things as well. The times that I have done that, I've been just incredibly grateful for myself. And I actually read that. I'm like, I love myself for doing that, because I don't think I would have remembered this at all or had a clue. So yeah, a little bonus tip for you there. All right. So number 4 is to have regular reviews. So we kind of talked about this already, but at the start of your week, take a look at what needs to be done. Look in your calendar, in your to-do list, in your plans, and identify what is due this week, or what even needs to get started this week as well. And prioritize what needs to get done, and then start with a top priority first. Yeah, so prioritize it and start with that top priority. And I would say the day before the last day of your working week, if you work Monday to Friday, do this on Thursday, review that list again and make sure that you're on track, right? That you haven't missed anything. This kind of gives you one final day to do those last bits that need to get done. So, and I even like to review it daily, even every day. I'm like, okay, what are my top 3 things that I got to work on today? And how are they related to my top 3 goals for the week? And how am I doing with everything? And if sometimes, life happens, or you forgot about a meeting or whatever, and things get bumped, then, you can reprioritize, and that's totally fine. And the 5th thing I want to talk to you about today, which is the final thing that I referenced earlier, was the master single tasking. So this is focusing on one thing at a time and completing it if you have the time to complete it, but focusing on one thing at a time. And if you didn't see, I think it was episode 49 with Jennifer Takagi, or maybe it's episode 50 actually, check out her thing. She talks about doing things in 12-minute increments. And so even there, you can just focus on something for 12 minutes. And maybe you won't complete something entirely, but maybe complete one task of something that you need to do, that's part of your bigger goals. And it's really good to focus on one thing at a time, because context switching has been proven to be inefficient, because it ends up taking you more time to do all the things. Because when you stop a task and you context switch to something different, and then you come back to that first task, sometimes it can take up to 20 minutes to get your mind back to the place where you left off, which is crazy. It can take that long for you to refocus. Now, if you have ADHD or ADD or something like that, your brain works a bit differently, right? You kind of have these cogs that are constantly going, and you focus on one cog while the other cog's kind of going in the background, and then you switch your focus to that cog while the other cog's going. And so your brain definitely does work differently, and you do context switch a lot, and you can usually pick it up faster. But for those of us that are not, context switching can be definitely inefficient. You can get a lot more done by just focusing on one thing for a certain amount of time, and then sort of closing that in your mind, and then starting something new. I'd like to put my phone and my computer on do not disturb for that specific amount of time that I want to focus on this single task. This really helps with distractions, right? So if you get messages and then that distracts you and you go check it out, or your calendar bangs, or I don't know, whatever it may be. You get an email, right? Ping, 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 pinging all the time. So you want to, or buzzing on your phone. So, so I suggest putting it on do not disturb for that specific amount of focus time that you're working on something. And you can just kind of block it in your calendar. And you can set a time, right? You can set a time so you can focus on a task for that set amount of time. And again, it could be 12-minute increments, it could be 30 minutes, it could be an hour, whatever it might do. And when the timer goes off, you can assess if you need to continue focusing on that task at hand or move on to the next task. So those are my tips for you. And quite honestly, these are the things that I do every single day, and how I stay organized and how I'm efficient and get things done. So, that's it from me. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that, if you can implement any of these organization tips and little systems and things that I share that you can be more efficient, and therefore that will help you if you are feeling overwhelmed, and it will not lead to burnout. All right. Thank you very much, and we will talk next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.